Well, this is a bit of a double tragedy. So even though I will be discussing Aaron Smith Levin, I want to keep the focus on Kyle and his tragedy. And this is YouTube, so I'm forced to say this. Allegedly, this happened, but I think the evidence does point to there's no easy way of putting it murder. So what happened? Well, essentially, Kyle had a father who was in Scientology, Tom, and he was extremely fanatical. And essentially, Kyle was traveling the country and he was going to these different places with quite a few gold coins. He was actually a very interesting young man, quite a writer, and very good with his money. And he wanted to stop in Florida before returning home to Charlottesville. But unfortunately, he had the misfortune of staying with his father, and his father was being supervised by Denise Miscavige. For those who don't know, Denise Miscavige is, yes, the sister of David Miscavige, the nominal leader of the Church of Scientology. So a very horrific tragedy happened when Kyle was found dead. And the story that Tom and Denise put out is that he took his own life. The problem is overwhelmingly the evidence did not show that. It didn't show that at all. So the evidence pointed to foul play, even though Kyle died of a bullet wound. They couldn't find the bullet. There was no gun residue on his hands. His laptop, for whatever reason, was taken. The information was destroyed on the computer. And the police had an incredibly botched investigation. They did not follow standard procedures. They lied repeatedly to Kyle's mother and the family. So it's clearly a cover-up and a very vicious case of the church abusing its authority and clearly working with corrupt officials. So that's the setting. And Aaron Smith Levin did a horrifically bad commentary where he assumed that Kyle took his own life and put out a very bad commentary.
Tell you that just my experience in Scientology would lead me to conclude that the likelihood of that being the correct version of events, that Denise would have advised Kyle's father to withhold the medication, that in my opinion has an extremely high likelihood of being true, regardless of whether the judge threw out the case due to insufficient evidence or whatever. Of course there was insufficient evidence.
Now, part of the reason that Aaron got it wrong is that, yes, the actual record has been tampered with. There were a few journal articles on Kyle's passing. And again, this is speculation, but it seems that Scientology is essentially warping the algorithm where the first things you will find are their articles. And Kyle's mother confirms this, that she confronted a journalist who was putting some complete lies in a journal article about the death. And the journalist confessed that they were being bribed by Scientology. They were literally putting out propaganda to cover up the alleged murder. I have to say alleged, although I think it is a murder. And they confessed to it. But those are articles that are still put up with no factual corrections. So now for the historical record, people will accidentally read these journal articles and think these are unbiased sources. But no, they're deliberate propaganda by the church. And to make matters worse, some of the X community are injecting issues that are really not relevant to the case, but saying that definitely this is a matter of a young man who, quote unquote, took his life because reasons.
On YouTube, recently put out a video where she says this.
So yeah, for those, I've been seeing several people asking recently, what is the story about Kyle Brennan? And I want to simply say the conspiracy is not whether or not he committed the S word, because we already know that. And that is what it shows on the autopsy report. The story is how he had his antidepressant medication taken from him.
For this video would be, why are you saying this? So you're saying that we definitely know that Kyle took his life because the autopsy, even though we know for a fact that Scientology has manipulated autopsy reports. This has happened before with Lisa McPherson, where initially Lisa's death was considered, it was not an accident, and later they said it was an accident. It is perfectly plausible that Scientology, with its resources, and definitely David Miscavige, for his sister, would manipulate things and bribe officials. Maybe some of these officials on their own just acted stupidly or incompetently, or unfortunately, it could be the church using its resources has skewed the record horribly And a lot of people in the X community are helping the church with its false narrative. Why this is happening, I don't know.
That have spoken out. And here, Victoria Britton herself answers and battles. She says, Alonzo, as well as Doug's information about the circumstances surrounding my son's death is accurate.
I can only assume that Marisa and Aaron are frankly just stupid. They're very ignorant and they don't want to do the research and know the basic facts of the case. The facts point to this is an alleged case of murder. It's YouTube, I have to say alleged, but the probability is very high. This was murder, and this is Denise Miscavige. So they're going to cover it up. It's a really horrifying case, and it's all the more horrifying that people in, quote, the X community cannot do basic research on this. But I would encourage people to please seek out Kyle's mother, who has her own site, which has a lot of factual information, as well as some of the better YouTubers like Doug Scott Kramer, the blog man, as I'm calling him. I'm doing work on Kyle myself, and a few other trusted sources. And just please try to Google Kyle's name and avoid those bad journal articles, and or if you are going to read them with a lot of skepticism. I'm all about read as much information as possible, but Scientology can do it. They can taint sources, and they're tainting the sources. And some people in the X community are helping this propaganda campaign. Why? I don't know. It just seems a lot of people in the X community are willing to take the life of an innocent young man and use them for very ugly partisan purposes to suit their own narrative. But Kyle's death deserves better than this. So please do your own research and question my own research. But I think overall, this is a case of a really horrific cover up of the murder of a very young, innocent man.